Larry, we can start broadcasting if you'd like. All right, and before we get started, I have a statement to read just about the, oh, Keith, are you able to hear us? You having some audio issues? Well, hopefully Keith can work that out and we'll get started. So the statement regarding the fact that we are doing a virtual meeting this morning, due to the Safer at Home order issued by Governor Cooper, members of the Bicycle Pedestrian Active Mobility Advisory Committee are participating virtually. All members will vote by roll call. A member will be recognized, and at which time the member will state his or her vote. So when we get to the point of having to vote on a chair and a vice chair, we'll go through the roll call person by person to cast your vote. So as we get started, I would encourage everybody to mute their microphones right now. And as necessary, we can unmute. And I think that has worked well, and hopefully we can all hear each other then. So it looks like somebody else joined us over the phone. Oh, go ahead.
I'm not familiar with WebEx. How do you mute on this thing? On Zoom, you click on your video portion. But,
Sure. At least the application that I'm working in, at the bottom there is a series of.
Oh, I see it down here. Okay, I got it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. It looks like somebody joined us on the phone too.
Yeah, this is Cynthia Thompson.
Hi, Cynthia. Thank you for joining us.
Hi. Now, is there also a Zoom meeting at 10?
There is. So we have the city bicycle or the city pedestrian master plan steering committee meeting is at 10. So that's a separate project, but I sent you all that link in case you would like to attend that as well. I think, we might as well, since we're starting on these meetings, we might as well get you involved in as many things as we can right off the bat. So, so it's a busy morning. All right. So I would just like to do a quick roll call here. I see Mr. Davis is online, Mr. Arrett, Mr. Gunkel, Mr. Hosey, Ms. Jones, Mr. Miller. Are you here? Scott Miller? No. Ms. Nelson, Mr. Smith, Mr. Swift, Ms. Thompson. They're all here and accounted for, and Mr. Moore. Are you here, Mr. Moore? Andy? No. Okay, so we have 9 of our 11 members online, so we can get started. And the first, really the second item on the agenda is just a welcome message from our Assistant City Manager and our DOT Director. With that, Damon, I'll turn it over to you. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, Matthew. I appreciate you. It's good to see you this morning. Good morning, everyone. You greetings on behalf of the Mayor and City Council and the City Manager, Lee Garrity, and express extreme gratitude for your willingness to volunteer on this committee. I'll be brief, but I want to cover a few items regarding what the expectations are from the Manager's Office and the City Council, and a few pitfalls that maybe we can avoid by getting off on the right foot. So the first one is that there are 11 of you, and we want to avoid sort of adding 11 adjunct staff members to our DOT team, bringing individual concerns or ideas to Matthew and Kelly and driving them to High Point or another place to work because they can't funnel it all together. So that points to the broader subject of your individual concerns and ideas are the exact reason why we appreciate your willingness to volunteer, but we need you all to work together as a team to bring those ideas and thoughts into a strategic discussion on how do those ideas and thoughts tie into the work that staff has already done with the public in creating strategic plans, bicycle pedestrian master plans, even all the way to design of roadways and standards and those sorts of things. How do those thoughts and ideas contribute to that work? How does it contribute to maybe revising those documents moving forward? How does it contribute to the overall health and wellness of the community? How does it contribute to encouraging more cycle and pedestrian activities in areas where it doesn't exist? Is there an equity concern there that if we had infrastructure and maybe some programs in place, we could encourage these healthy activities in other areas of the city? Another important area that needs to be viewed strategically and addressed is ADA access to all areas where folks could come and enjoy these type of activities as well. And as always, safety of our pedestrian and cyclists and others needs to be at the forefront of your mind. So the chair and vice chair, who hopefully will be determined today, are going to be tasked with trying to keep the meetings focused on that. You're going to receive a lot of input as this committee grows and becomes more and more effective over time from others. Be sure to bring those ideas to the team and share them. You'll hear from council members. You'll hear from citizens. You'll hear from groups. And all that input is important, but it's equally as important to share those sources with the team and to address and bring forth those ideas as a collective. So, our hope and our expectation, and we actually, it's not a hope, we know that good work is going to come out of this group, and we need to be able to bring those recommendations to the council in a way that we can actually realize and make progress. So funding is always going to be an issue, always. We can't accomplish everything without money, but we can accomplish some things without money. So those are the creative discussions that you're all going to have. We're excited to have you. It's a shame you're going to kick this thing off with an attorney. Sorry, Marilena, but we have some things that you must endure, such as our ethics and other things to make sure that we do everything right. But I appreciate each and every one of you. I'm grateful for the staff. It is a true pleasure that I get to support them. I think you'll find them as competent, capable, and excellent as I do as you go through the process. And I congratulate all of you on your nominations. And thank you again for your willingness to participate in this.
Great. Thank you, Damon. Tanique, I'll turn it over to you if there's something you would like to say.
Good morning. I'm Tanique McCullough, and I just wanted to say to you all, thank you very much for serving in this capacity. I am just here as a resource to Matthew and Kelly. Matthew and Kelly will be working with you all directly, and I'm just here to make sure that they have what they need to provide to you what you need to provide the service that you're providing to the city. I really value, and I'm thankful that City Council decided to adopt a committee such as yours to help us manage the information, the planning documents, the other things that we do to help promote transportation safety for all modes of movement within the city limits. And you all are a big part of that. And so I just want to say thank you, and I'm available to any of you if you have any questions about the Department of Transportation itself. I do ask you to go and work through Matthew. But again, if you do need to reach me directly, he will have my information to provide to you. But I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Tanique. And Kelly, if you would introduce yourself too, since you were kind enough to join us.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Kelly Garvin. I am the Plains Local Coordinator for the City of Winston-Salem and the MPO. I am extremely thankful to be able to work with you all on improving our bicycle and pedestrian amenities throughout the city and for our community. I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys, and I am here to support Matthew, and I'm available to help you with any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Kelly. So, as Damon mentioned, we need to go through some ethics and legal requirements since this is a subcommittee of City Council. So, Jensen Guthold with the City Attorney's Office is here, and Marlena, thank you very much for for joining us for this and helping kind of lay things out for us. I think this will be educational for me as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Marlena, and after that, we'll kind of get into kind of the meat of the agenda here and introduce ourselves and kind of get started on some of our work. But we definitely have to lay the groundwork with some of the legal and ethical requirements first. So Marlena, with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, hello, good morning. So I'm Marilena. I advise the Department of Transportation, and I'm going to talk to you, hopefully briefly, about open meetings law in North Carolina, public records, and a little bit about ethics, and these are all things which are going to apply to the work of your body. I'm not sure what the Assistant City Manager is talking about because I find this information fascinating, as I'm sure you will too. Matthew, you might want to let me know how we're doing with time a little bit, and I think we're just going to jump right in with open meetings law. So, North Carolina open meetings law says that all official meetings of public bodies must be open to the public. And so you're asking, what is a public body? A public body is any elected or appointed authority, board, commission, committee, council, or other body of state or local government that has 2 or more members and is authorized to exercise a legislative, policy-making, quasi-judicial, administrative, or in your case, an advisory function. So are all meetings of public bodies subject to the open meetings law? And the answer is no. Only official meetings are subject to the open meetings law. What is an official meeting? An official meeting is a meeting of a majority of the members of a public body, either in person, by teleconference as we're doing now, or by some electronic means such as email for the purpose of conducting hearings, participating in deliberations, and that includes the collective acquisition, exchange, and discussion of information, voting, or otherwise transacting public business. A social gathering of the members of a public body, which you're probably not going to do now, is not an official meeting unless the gathering meets the aforesaid criteria and is held to evade the requirements of the open meetings law. So can an official meeting take place via email? This is very important. Yes, it can. And 2 examples are participation by a majority of the members of a public body in a chat room or online discussion during which participants exchange messages in real time. Another example, and this is the important one, is email by one member of a public body to the others and the reply by any recipient to the sender and or the other recipients, such that a discussion among a majority of the members of the public body ensues. Even if the emails are sent over the span of a number of days, it's still an official meeting. So please avoid holding an official meeting via email. The open meetings law requires public notice of all official meetings and an opportunity for the public to participate. And these requirements are not met when the members of a public body engage in an email discussion. So if you wish to email a majority of the other members of the public body, please address your email to the chair of the public body and blind copy the remaining recipients. That way, when somebody responds, they're not responding to a majority of the members of the public body, and you don't have an illegal electronic official meeting. So public notice requirements for official meetings of a public body, what are they? The law requires public notice of official meetings, and there are 4 different types of official meetings, each of which requires its own type of notice. The 4 kinds of meetings are regular meetings, special meetings, emergency meetings, and recess meetings. What are regular meetings? What type of notice is required? Regular meetings are those meetings that are held at a fixed time and place on a regular schedule adopted by the public body. You have to file a copy of that schedule in the city secretary's office. If your schedule changes, you should file a new schedule with the city secretary at least 7 days before the first rescheduled meeting. Now, if only one of your regular meetings is rescheduled, you can treat that as a special meeting, and then you don't need to refile your schedule of meetings with the city secretary. So what is a special meeting and what type of notice is required? A special meeting is a meeting other than an emergency or recess meeting which convenes at a time or place other than what is shown on the regular meeting schedule. Two types of notices are required for special meetings. At least 48 hours before the meeting, you have to post a notice on the public body's principal bulletin board, or if there is none, on the door of the body's usual meeting room. Now, of course, during the pandemic, you'll be posting notices instead on the city's website. And then you have to mail or deliver notice to everyone who has submitted a written request for notice to the city secretary or the secretary of the public body. The notice has to state the time, place, and purpose of the meeting. And sometimes 48 hours notice is not going to be enough. So if you are meeting in person, if you posted notice late on a Friday or over the weekend in a building closed to the public over the weekend, that would not be sufficient notice. During a special meeting, you should also avoid discussing or voting on topics that were not included in the notice of special meeting. If there's a chance that a public body may vote on the matter, you have to state that possibility in the notice of the special meeting. That way the public has notice. The next type of meeting, the emergency meeting, what type of notice is required? So an emergency meeting is a meeting called on short notice. I'm not sure how many of these you'll have, but it's a meeting that's called on short notice due to unexpected circumstances, which require consideration within 48 hours. And the only notice required is to local news media that have requested notice of your meetings. You notify them by phone or in the same manner that members of your body are notified of the meeting. There's no minimum time period required for the notice. Once you provide that notice, you can hold your meeting as quickly as the members of your public body can assemble. But you have to be certain that the matter for consideration cannot wait the requisite 48 hours to avoid violating the open meetings law. So if the matter can wait 48 hours, you should call a special meeting instead. And then the final type of meeting is a recess meeting. So what is it? What type of notice is required? A recess meeting is a meeting that's recessed to be resumed at another time and place. You should announce the recess meeting in open session at the original meeting. You should announce the time and place at which the meeting is to be resumed. And the motion to recess something that's called a closed meeting should be made in open session or be otherwise publicly announced. Are there exceptions to the requirement that all official meetings be open to the public? Yes, there are. Certain subjects may be discussed in closed session. A closed session is a meeting from which the public is excluded. Again, I'm not sure how many of those you'll have, but in case you do, here's some information about them. So the only subjects which can be discussed in closed session are confidential information, if it's necessary to prevent the public disclosure of information protected under state or federal law, consultations with an attorney to preserve the attorney-client privilege, legal claims, and some other matters which are not pertinent to your body. What is the procedure for going into closed session? So in order to go into closed session, you have to make a motion in open session to go into closed session, and that motion has to be adopted by a majority of those present and voting. The motion should state the statutory exception that permits the closed session. Various other procedural and substantive requirements exist, so please consult with a city attorney's office if you do intend to make a motion to go into closed session. Now, if you go into closed session to discuss one matter, may you discuss other matters eligible for closed session review? And that's a no. The public has a legal right to know what subjects will be discussed in a closed session. The public body must restrict its discussion to those matters set out in the motion that authorize the session. So if you want to discuss another matter, you have to return to open session and amend your original motion or adopt a new one stating the additional purpose or exception that you intend to discuss in closed session. Who can attend a closed session? So only the members of your public body have a right to attend. You can allow others to attend, but you cannot permit some members of the public to attend and exclude others unless you have a logical basis for making that distinction. One word of caution, though, if you are holding a closed session to preserve the attorney-client privilege, the presence of an outsider may destroy that attorney-client privilege and invalidate the closed session. So a closed session that's held to preserve the attorney-client privilege cannot legally include any person not within the scope of that privilege. May the members of a public body vote in closed session? That depends. The law permits a vote in closed session on some subjects, like giving instructions to your attorney, but not on others. If voting in closed session is not permitted, however, you can still reach a consensus in closed session and then take formal action in open session. Then when you want to adjourn the closed session, you should make and approve a motion to return to open session before you adjourn the meeting. And then you make the motion to adjourn the meeting. It's only valid if you make it in open session. The next thing you need to do is to make sure that you keep a full and accurate minutes of all your official meetings. You include the minutes or general accounts of any closed sessions so that a person who wasn't there would have a reasonable understanding of what transpired during the closed session. So your minutes and accounts of closed session may be withheld from public inspection if public inspection would frustrate the purpose of the closed session. What are the consequences now of failing to comply with the open meetings law? Well, a court could issue an injunction against violations of the open meetings law. A court could invalidate any actions that you take at an illegal meeting. A court could order you to pay plaintiff's attorney's fees. And, this one's a little scary, a court could hold individual members of the public body personally liable for those fees. However, according to North Carolina statute, you can avoid personal liability if you follow the advice of an attorney. So always please consult with me or with the city attorney's office if you have any doubts about the open meetings law. Jumping to our next topic, public records. I'm only going to speak to this briefly. Not going to spend much time on it other than to say that any documents or records in your possession which pertain to the transaction of public business must be kept for a certain period of time according to the appropriate retention schedule, which I believe is about 3 years, and made available for public inspection and disclosure. And this also applies to email. So if you prepare, send, or receive an email in connection with a transaction of public business, that email is a public record, whether it's stored on a public or private device or server. An email that relates to public business is a public record even if it's sent from a home computer or a personal email account. You have an obligation to retain that email according to the relevant retention schedule and to provide access to the email if you're requested to do so. And that, in a nutshell, is open meetings and public records law as it pertains to you. I am going to send you this presentation after your meeting today. It will have my contact information, and you can contact me with any questions you have as you go along. So is there any question now at the moment before I move on to ethics? Okay. All right, so now moving.
It's Matthew, real quick. Just if we could wrap it up, maybe 5 minutes on ethics. That should give us enough time to finish the business of the rest of the meeting then too. So.
Thank you, Matthew. Okay, we're going to whip through ethics. Certainly. Okay, so the City Council has adopted an ethics policy, and the purpose is to establish guidelines for ethical standards of conduct for city representatives. A city representative is any person elected, appointed like you, hired or selected to an office, position, committee, etc. of this city, whether or not you're paid or unpaid. And the purpose is to foster high standards of integrity, truthfulness, honesty, and fairness, to prevent the making of decisions that are affected by undue influence, and to promote and strengthen the public's confidence in city government. So city representatives are expected to observe and follow high ethical and moral standards in their discharge of city duties. There are some prohibitions on city representatives' conduct. One is a conflict of interest, so you cannot derive a personal gain as a result of the knowledge you obtain during your service for the city if that knowledge is not public knowledge. The second prohibition is that you should not accept any gift, favor, reward, or gratuity. Gifts include money, gift cards, food, beverages, loans, services, or entertainment. Certain things are exceptions, such as advertising items, souvenirs of nominal value. $25 and under is presumed to be nominal. However, if the circumstances in which a gift is given would lead a reasonable person to conclude that the gift was given with the intent to influence your decision or an official action, then the gift cannot be accepted. So it's very important that you cannot give or receive gifts from people who are seeking a contract, franchise, certificate, permit, or license from the city unless it's of nominal value, but if circumstances indicate that it's better not to accept the gift, then please don't. Another prohibition, no improper use of position. You cannot knowingly use your office to secure a personal benefit for you, your immediate family, or to benefit other entities. No disclosure of confidential information. So if you gain or become privy to confidential, privileged, or proprietary information, you have an obligation not to disclose that, and that prohibition continues after your duties for the city end. You may not influence the city's selection of or the conduct of business with any corporation, person, or firm. Proposing to do business with the city if you have a personal relationship or a financial interest in that company, and you may not solicit any gift, reward, service, promise of reward, etc., or a promise of future employment in exchange for recommending, influencing, or attempting to influence the grant of a franchise, license, permit, or contract for the city. There are a few other circumstances as well, but I will send you the city's ethics policy following this meeting, and if you have any questions about it, please don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you.
Thank you, Marlene. I appreciate that.
Certainly.
And some of this is, things that I will remind all of you about. And we can have an ethics reminder at most meetings, and I'll work with Marlena to interpret some of these and make sure that as we communicate via email and through other means that we're adhering to those requirements. So, thank you, Marlena. I know we'll be in touch as we work through some of these issues, so I appreciate you helping with this.
Certainly happy to do so. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, so, since we I wanted to get those introductions and some of the ethical and legal requirements out of the way, but I think it's important that we give us a little bit of time just for all of you to introduce yourselves. Since we'll all be working together so much on this, I'd like for each of you to get to know each other just a little bit. So if we could go through and just introduce yourself, I was thinking maybe just let everybody know what your personal interest was in serving on this committee. I think we have a pretty diverse group of interests, and I think it'd be interesting to hear from each person about kind of the angle that they're approaching this topic from and what they would like to accomplish. So maybe just less than a minute each, just kind of go through and introduce yourselves. I'd appreciate that. We'll just go in alphabetical order. Mr. Davis, if you'd introduce yourself. Looks like some audio issues there. Yeah, I'm sorry, we can't hear you. We'll come back to you. It sounds like you've been able to hear us fine. If you want to work on that microphone issue, we'll come back to you at the end then, okay? Mr. Arrett, Greg, if you would introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, yeah, great.
Okay, very good. My name is Greg Arrett. I'm a former city of Winston-Salem DOT staff member. I worked with Matthew directly for about 6 or 7 years. I've been a career transportation planner, and I've always had an interest in bicycle and pedestrian planning and facility development and long-range planning and things of that nature. So this is right up my alley. I'm glad that this committee has been formed. I'm pleased that the mayor's chosen me to serve on it. And I look forward to working with each of you in developing whatever projects and plans that we have going forward. So good morning, everyone, and I hope you enjoy working on this committee as I will. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Greg. John Gunkel, would you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. My name is John Gunkel. I'm relatively new to Winston-Salem, been here a couple of years and recently retired FedEx director. I moved here from Memphis and I was involved in bicycling and pedestrian advocacy there. And I've kind of dabbled in it since I've been here. I'm very much an avid cyclist myself, and I'm very much interested in having a good cycling and pedestrian infrastructure in the city of Winston-Salem. I think it makes our city a much, much better place to live.
Thank you, John. Keith, would you like to try again? Maybe you had figured out the issue? Or maybe not. Let's see. Okay. So, Michael, if you would. Michael Hosey, you there?
Hello.
Hey, Michael. We got you.
Yes, I'm Michael Hosey. I'm avid cyclist. I work for the National Cycling Center, so heavily involved in most things cycling in Winston-Salem. Looking to be, getting plugged in wherever we can. I think just with all the kind of involvement, just kind of connected to the scene, and hopefully can just help, with this task force, just make things happen, make more things happen here in Winston for cycling and pedestrian and micromobility.
Great. Thank you, Michael. Ms. Jones, Donna, it's your turn.
Good morning. My name is Donna Jones. I have an insurance office here in town, and my interest in this is because I love the outdoors. And during COVID, I find that cycling and walking are such good activities right now, and I'm a part of a female biking group. And so when we take our rides, just riding around the city has just meant a lot to me, especially during this time. And it's so encouraging to see so many people outside right now. That's one of the good things that's come from this devastating situation. So I just want to be a part of the group that was kind of making some decisions around mobility for people who want to be outside and want to bike and want to be able to be on trails and all in the community.
Great. Thank you, Donna. Yeah, you raised a good point about a lot more people using the greenways and a lot more activity as of late. That's something that, as we go on and we continue our work, I can share information about the counters that we have out on different trails and different sidewalks and in the streets, actually counting bikes. And we can talk about how those numbers have changed over time and been affected this year, especially. So Ms. Nelson, Sharon, if you would introduce yourself.
Hey, thanks, Matthew. I'm Sharon Nelson. I have sort of a complicated history with cycling and walking in Winston-Salem. I'm an avid cycler. I do greenway, rail trails, and mountain biking. And most recently, I was employed by Novant Health, where I was involved in getting the Winston-Salem Cycling Classic off the ground, partnership with Fleet Feet Walking.
Sharon, we're having some audio issues, kind of cutting in and out.
Is this any better?
I can hear you now, yeah.
Okay. Do you want me to start back?
Yeah, if you would.
Okay. So Sharon Nelson, I live in the downtown area and have been in Winston-Salem since 1995, I believe. I'm an avid cyclist, walking, hiking. I do mountain biking, greenway, and rail trail for my cycling habits. I was formerly with Novant Health, where I helped get the Winston-Salem Cycling Classic off the ground and was involved in partnerships with Fleet Feet around getting people active and mobile and building healthy lifestyles. And my complicated cycling history is that I'm also the victim of a bike and car incident. So I was hit by a car 2 years ago in September on Broad Street, broke my pelvis in 2 places and was laid up for 10 weeks. which segues into the mobility aspects of this, because if you've never been in a wheelchair or on crutches, especially in the downtown community, but even in major businesses, it's not easy. We have a lot of room for improvement, and not just we, I think the world in general is just not built for easy accessibility. So I sort of come to this from multiple directions and points of interest.
Understood. Thank you, Sharon. I appreciate you sharing that. AJ Smith, if you would introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm AJ Smith. I've lived in Winston-Salem for just under 10 years now. Sounds like many of you, I'm a recreational cyclist, an occasional bike commuter, but also walk regularly from my neighborhood to downtown and surrounding parts of town. So I believe a lot in that better infrastructure for pedestrian and bicycles benefits, not only the quality of life for citizens, but also has significant benefits to businesses in the area. And I'm interested in participating here for just to help policies and infrastructure improvements for safe and equitable transportation across the city.
Great, thank you, AJ. Joshua Swift, Mr. Swift, if you would introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, hey, Joshua Swift. I'm the local health director with the Forsyth County Department of Public Health, and have been here almost 2 years. Grew up in Surrey County, so sort of local, but just really interested. I'm not per se a cyclist, other than sometimes on the Greenway or trails like the Virginia Creeper, but very interested in how the built environment, so sidewalks, roads, bike lanes, how that affects the health of the community, whether that's for a competitive or semi-competitive cyclist, or the person that needs to walk or bike to the store. And how, studies have shown that in public health, areas that are more walkable and bikeable, your just chronic diseases go down, whether you're trying to get fit or just need to get that, how do you call it, that inadvertent physical activity. You're not planning to be active, but you just want to, you have a purpose to get to work or to a bus stop. So I think, just really interested in that. Also, I think interested in just, I don't know if we'll touch on this, Matt, but just the bus stops, because obviously people have to walk or bike to those bus stops, and how those are safely where they're at and how safe that is. But just interested to be with the group, and I think just work together on some projects.
Thank you, Joshua. I appreciate you joining us. I know obviously how busy you've been lately, so thanks for taking the time. And your point about transit and the interconnectedness of transit and walkability and bikeability is, there's no doubt to that. And that's, the meeting actually at 10 o'clock about our pedestrian master plan, there's a definite focus on connecting and improving accessibility to transit facilities. So you're right on there, and that's definitely something we can discuss. Ms. Thompson, Cynthia, if you would introduce yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name's Cynthia Thompson. I go by Cindy. I'm a California native, and we moved here 5 years ago. And the reason we picked the neighborhood that we live in is because it had sidewalks. I was surprised to find out how many areas didn't have sidewalks or like safe walking space. And we also happen to live by one of the railroad tracks that is no longer used, but has a huge connectability. It goes all the way into downtown to the existing converted trails, and it goes past Whole Foods, and I believe it goes all the way into Clemens. So one of my interests would be to use those or find out what the restrictions are for the railroads, and seeing if they could be converted into walking paths. I think that would make the city more accessible for everybody, because it connects all parts of the city together. So just making it so there's more availability, accessibility for people to get around and for recreation and for purpose, like if you wanted to bike to work or walk to work. We just like going out and exploring all over the town and love going for walks and hikes and everything. So I just think it would make it better. And I also like what Joshua said, because one of the things I've noticed is bus stops are in very odd locations. Like there's one on Stratford across from P.F. Chang's, right next to the railroad tracks, which would be cool if that was a trail to get to. But watching the people try to cross the road to get to that bus stop is kind of scary. So that's why I was interested.
Great reasons. Thank you very much for sharing that. Keith, let's go back to you.
Okay.
There we go.
All right. Oh, and now the dog. This is a comedy of errors. Yes. My name is
territory, no problem.
I know. I was managing multiple devices a second ago, and we get. That's my dog, Samson. He and I like to walk together, and that's the reason for the call. No. My wife, Emily, and I own Fleet Feet in Winston-Salem and the New Balance store. And so, part of our livelihood is getting people active. We train literally thousands of walkers and runners a year. Personally, just passionate about getting people active. I personally have been a runner and walker in Winston-Salem and cyclist since about 1998. This is my hometown. I came back in 1998. And trying to find ways to make it a more active community and a safer community is near and dear to my heart. Interestingly, I also, just being in the position I'm in, we get tons of phone calls from folks that aren't walkers and runners looking for explanations as to why we're on the roads. And, so it's just interesting it would be great for me to be a part of bringing those two groups of people together, because, walkers and runners are not always embraced by all segments of the community, and trying to figure out ways that we can help those two sides come together is a big deal to me.
Excellent. Thank you, Keith. And that you raise a good point that, we tend to focus on the infrastructure side of things, but it's that messaging, that education, the encouragement side that we'll focus on as well. And I think this group can play a role in that. So I think that's it. I think everybody has had a chance to introduce themselves. I'll do the same. I'm Matthew Burchek. I'm the bicycle and pedestrian coordinator with the city and the Metropolitan Planning Organization, so kind of the regional area. And we moved here from Madison, Wisconsin 11 years ago, and have been working in this position since then. And I think on a personal note, my interest in this, and I think Cindy mentioned this, that we actually live in the neighborhood we do because it was walkable. There are sidewalks adjacent to the trail system, really good connectivity to the trails. So that's, on a personal note, that those are things that are vital to me in choosing where and how we live. And I'm glad to be able to work on these issues professionally. And I'm looking forward to working with all of you. And I appreciate your interest in this and, furthering what we've done and what we're working on now, and kind of refining that, and kind of taking the next step with some of the things we're working on. And I think I want this group to be a working group. I want all of you to be very active with this. I want, some good products to come out of the work that we do. So hopefully you all are on kind of the same page with that, and we can work together on it. So moving on, we have about 10 minutes left. And
Matthew, I was going to say, Dexter Vines hasn't had a chance to speak, I don't think.
Thank you, Greg. Dexter, I'm sorry. If you would introduce yourself, that would be great.
Hello, everybody. I'm Dexter Vines. I am the safety manager at Winston-Salem Transit. So we had a project going on with our company Transdev about pedestrian awareness and cyclist awareness. So Tanique hooked me up with Matthew. We had a good conversation. He thought it would be good if I joined this committee. So I'm concerned about some of y'all concerns about the bus stops and the availability to get to the bus stop. So that'll be good, and how the cyclists and the pedestrians and some of the key intersections that we need to be on the lookout for. I've been here since February, so I'm fairly new. I'm from Greensboro, but I really want to get some of this information from the guys that are out there so we can make the transit and the pedestrian cyclists a safer place.
Great. Thank you, Dexter. And I apologize for
that's all right.
recognizing you there. And that reminds me, we have our voting members, the 11 voting members that were approved by City Council, but we also have 3 ex officio members who are non-voting members. And Dexter, those ex officio members represent 3 different organizations: the Creative Corridors Design Review Committee, the Transit Authority, and the Transportation Advisory Committee. So Dexter's representing the Transit Authority, and what we want to do is have connections between all of the groups that are working on transportation issues, so we're not replicating efforts, and that we're kind of contributing all towards the same goal here. So Dexter, I appreciate you being a part of this and joining us. So moving on, the next items that were the action items, and we need to elect a chair and a vice chair. So I think we'll start with the chair. And I'll open the floor for nominations for that chair position. Would anybody like to nominate anybody for that position?
I was going to say, in listening to Ms. Nelson's comments, I was very impressed with what she had to say, and I'd like to nominate her for the chairman or chairperson of our committee. I don't know whether she's going to accept or not, but I'd like to nominate her.
All right. Sharon, are you okay with that nomination?
I am.
Okay.
I'm in a position right now where I have a great deal of flexibility that could change, but I am super passionate about this issue, again, from multiple aspects, and would love to do whatever I can.
Okay. All right. That's good. Are there any other nominations? Would anybody like to nominate anybody else or second the nomination of Sharon?
I'll second the nomination.
Keith has the second there. All right. Any further discussion? Any other nominations? If not, we can go through the roll call, and I'll ask each of you to vote as I call off your name. So we'll start with Mr. Davis.
Yes.
All right. Mr. Arrett.
Let me unmute myself here. Yes, obviously, yes.
Okay. Mr. Gunkel.
Yes.
Mr. Hosey.
Yes.
Ms. Jones.
Yes.
Ms. Nelson.
Yes. Many of us said no, right? Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
All right. Mr. Swift.
Yes.
And Ms. Thompson.
Yes.
All right, it's unanimous. Congratulations, Sharon. And now we need to also elect a vice chair. So is there a nomination for the vice chair position?
I would nominate Keith because of his experience with Fleet Feet and running and walking programs in town.
Okay. Keith, is that okay with you?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Okay. All right. Are there any other nominations, or can I get a second for Keith for the vice chair position?
I'll second it.
All right. All right. And any further discussion on this one? If not, we can go through the vote, and I'll go through alphabetically again. Mr. Davis.
Happy to help.
All right. Yes. Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Gunkel?
Yes.
Mr. Hosey?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Swift? And Ms. Thompson?
Yes.
All right, unanimous again. This is a good sign. You all are doing a really good job of staying on top of things, and I appreciate that. That was a very quick couple votes, and it's working out well, so thank you. That was really it for the action items. We have about 5 minutes before that pedestrian plan meeting begins. I think I included that link in the agenda for today. So if you are able to join us, even if you can't join for the whole thing, if you just want to sit on a little bit, that would be great. We'd love to get you involved in the process right away as well.
Matthew, I had a question for you.
Sure,
sir. You're saying an agenda. Did you send out an agenda, or are we supposed to link to one? Or
I will do a better job in the future. I sent it out this morning, just prior to the meeting. So that was my mistake. But in the future, we'll send that agenda out. I will work with Sharon and Keith if necessary on the agenda. So I'll work with the chair and the vice chair in getting that agenda ready. And in the future, we'll send that out a week in advance. Today, the agenda was pretty limited. It was just introductions and the nominations. So, but in the future, I expect there will be more action items, more information items to share, and we'll make sure to get that agenda out well in advance of the meeting.
No problem. Just curious about that. Thank you.
You should have it in your email, and that link to the pedestrian plan meeting is in that agenda. I think I also sent out, or I think Jason Reyes with Alta Planning sent out a link to that meeting as well. Should have included that. So if you don't have that, let me know. We'd love to have you there. But that should do it. Our next meeting is November 11th, another Wednesday, second Wednesday of the month at 9 a.m. And the link that you have, that WebEx link, will continue to work. But as we send out the agenda, I'll make sure to include the link in there as well. Any other business? Oh, go ahead, Sharon.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I just checked my email. I did not get anything from you, but I did get an email from Reyes about the other.
Yes, yeah. The link that I sent out to it would have been in the agenda this morning, actually. But
yeah, that's what I didn't get anything this morning.
Okay. All right. We'll work on that and we'll get that out. See you next time. Any other business? Anybody have anything to add? No? Okay. So again, thank you. This was a great meeting. Good timing. I appreciate you all. This, the first meeting, kind of just getting things off the ground. So in the future, we'll address some other business. I look forward to working with all of you. Thank you. Hopefully I'll see some of you at the next meeting. If not, we'll see you next month.
Okay, very good.
Right.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, Janine.